Hello everybody, my name is Cody bringing us yet another video, and in today's video, we're continuing the ranking of all the D&D 5e subclasses. I know it has been quite a while since I posted a video. There was supposed to be stuff on Pokemon throughout the week, but uh, the bits that I did record here and there, none of it was really anything that I thought would be, something that I would want to upload. For the most part. It was all kind of like, all the attempts on trying to catch the two legendaries. It was literally just me like save quitting and like almost no commentary for the most part. So it's like, man, yeah, this is kind of boring to be honest. And then, as much fun as I'm sure having you guys watch the battle condo, it would have been. It was like a meh actual thing because it's like, oh, cool, you get to watch me do like I think it was like 10 battles basically, and it was like, yeah, cool, that would have been kind of fun, but like, mm. And yeah, there's like a couple of like secret things that I could have gotten throughout the thing by bringing people certain items and bringing certain Pokemon to certain areas, but in the end, it was kind of, not really what I wanted to continue to do. I will hopefully find um, another game to play, at some point. I know Isaac was supposed to go up, but it didn't. So hopefully Isaac will start coming out, or I will find another Pokemon game to start uploading, or I'll start uploading another game that I started playing a good bit recently, which is Genshin Impact. So maybe be on the lookout for that. But hey, today isn't about all those games. Today is about D&D, and specifically the fighters. So, Fighter, if you guys remember my overall ranking, Fighter is my favorite class in the game. So, get ready for a lot of me to a lot of things to talk about. There's a few things to be going over, so this will be two videos. But to be honest, I can make a whole video over each of these because of how much I've played. Majority of them, at least, not all of them, but a lot of them I've played a lot of. So, as a starting point, we will of course go over the Arcane Archer. Starting at 3rd level when you get your subclass, you'll gain Arcane Archer lore. You'll be getting stuff at 3rd, 7th, 10th, 15th, and 18th, before I forget and don't tell you guys. So, right off the bat at 3rd, you'll get Arcane Archer. You'll get one of the two lore things, either Arcana or Nature, and then you'll either get Druid Calf or Prestidigitation. So, for me, I would probably go over, depending on what you're doing. Usually, Prestidigitation is always kind of nice, along with Arcana, or if you want to be more of a nature-based one, then you can probably go something like that, depending on what you want to do and how you want to go through it all. You'll also will get Arcane Shot, which is basically saying that once per turn when you fire an arrow from a short or long bow, so this is not something that you can do with crossbows or guns. It is only doing stuff with a bow and arrow. You can apply one of your arcane shot options to that arrow. You decide to use the option when the arrow hits a creature, unless the option doesn't involve an attack roll. You have 2 uses of this ability and regain all expended uses of it when you finish a short or long rest. You gain additional arcane shot options of your choice when you reach certain levels in this class, 7, 10, 15, and 18. Each option also improves when you become an 18th level fighter. So, you'll get multiple ones. They'll basically always be the same, it's just you are able to keep on choosing and choosing and choosing more as you level up. So, going over them, if you choose Banishing Arrow, you use Abjuration Magic to try to temporarily banish your target to a harmless location in the Feywild. The creature hit by the arrow must succeed on a Charisma saving throw or be banished, and your saving throw is going to be 8 plus your proficiency plus your intelligence. While banished in this way, the target's speed is 0 and is incapacitated. At the end of your next turn, the target reappears in the space it vacated or in the nearest unoccupied space. At 18th level, a target also takes 2d6 force damage when hit by this arrow. You can also go for Beguiling Arrow. Your enchantment magic causes this arrow to temporarily beguile its target. The creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 psychic damage, and choose one of your allies within 30 feet of the target. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or it is charmed by the chosen ally until the start of your next turn. This effect ends early if the chosen ally attacks the charmed target, deals damage to it, or forces it to make a saving throw. At 18th level, it becomes 4d6. Bursting Arrow. You imbue your arrow with force energy drawn from the School of Evocation. The energy detonates after your attack. Immediately after the arrow hits the target and all other creatures within 10 feet of it must take 2d6 force damage. The force damage increases to 4d6 when you hit 18th level. So basically, you just shoot an exploding arrow, which is pretty good. Enfeebling Arrow, you weave necromantic magic into your arrow. The creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 necrotic damage. The target must also succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or the damage dealt by its weapon attacks is halved until the start of your next turn. It becomes 4d6 at 18th level. I mean, any of these that are basically saying that, oh, the target takes extra damage, like these three, your beguiling, bursting, and enfeebling so far, are extremely good because they all basically say, hey, you do extra damage, and there's also like some extra little bit of stuff that are added on top of that, like saying, oh, you gotta hit you gotta do 2d6 damage, and there's a chance that he'll be charmed by an ally. They'll take 2d6 damage, and the enemy's other people nearby will take extra damage. And then this one is they'll take extra necrotic damage, and they have a chance to become enfeebled, which basically just halves their damage, which is something that Ray of Enfeeblement does itself. So it's all actually really good that it's guaranteed damage, and then the chance for like an added effect. When this arrow strikes its target, Grasping Arrow, Conjuration Magic creates grasping poisonous brambles which wrap around the target. The creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 poison damage, its speed is reduced by 10, and it takes 2d6 slashing damage the first time on each turn it moves 1 foot or more without teleporting. The target or any creature that can reach it can use its reaction to remove the brambles with a successful athletics check against your arcane shot save DC. Otherwise, the brambles last for 1 minute, and then at 18th level, both damage types become 4d6. This one is extremely powerful because A, it is automatic damage, B, it is giving the effect um, of reducing speed, which is always actually really helpful, especially if you hit an enemy who's trying to run away with this, because then immediately they're slower now, which gives you time to catch up to them. And B, if they're trying to use all of their stuff to be running away, their movement and their action to be running away, they might be taking an additional 2d6 at the start of its turn just because it tried to move. So it can potentially stack up damage really quick if they aren't trying to break it off themselves. And then at 18th level, you'll just be getting the last one of all of them. You can use Transmutation Magic to give your arrow ethereal quality by using Piercing Arrow. When you use this option, you don't make an attack roll for the attack. Instead, the arrow shoots forward in a line which is 1 foot wide and 30 feet long before disappearing. The arrow passes harmlessly through objects, ignoring cover. Each creature in that line must make a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, a creature takes damage as if you're hit by the arrow, plus an additional 1d6 piercing damage. On a successful save, a target takes half as much damage. At 18th level, it becomes 2d6. So this basically just allows you to do guaranteed damage. So if you can see that there's going to be 2 or 3 enemies that are within a decent sized line, this is actually a really good thing because then you can basically just be constantly hitting multiple enemies. And if you have some an item like your bow is able to do like 2d8 damage or something like that, then this is extremely strong because this will be shooting to do 2d8 plus 5, let's say. So it'll be 2d8 plus 2d6, which means, you'll be basically, let me roll that for you, why not? You'll basically be tossing this out to be doing 13, you'll be doing 18 damage to everybody in the line who didn't save, and then 9 to those who did save. And that's also not including if there's any other effect that might be allowing you to do even more damage to them, like possible fire damage on your arrow, lightning on your arrow, poison on your arrows. It's actually pretty good. You can have Seeking Arrow. Using Divination magic, you grant your arrow the ability to seek out a target. When you use this option, you don't make an attack roll for the attack. Instead, choose one creature you have seen in the past minute. The arrow flies towards that creature, moving around corners if necessary, and ignoring 3/4 coverage and half cover. If the target is within the weapon's range and there is a path large enough for the arrow to travel to the target must make a dexterity saving throw. Otherwise, the arrow disappears after traveling as far as it can. On a failed save, the target takes damage as if it were hit by the arrow plus an extra 1d6 force damage, and you learn the target's current location. On a successful save, the target takes half as much damage and you don't learn its location. At 18th level, it becomes 2d6. So this is just like a kind of nifty little, you know, if this is actually against somebody that maybe they just went invisible, this actually would work for that, because you don't need to be able to see them. It's just that if you had seen them within the past minute, so if you're trying to find somebody, they go, ooh, boop, they disappear, you use Seeking Arrow and launch it, and then it'll automatically lock on and go to them, and as long as they don't make their saving throw, you automatically know where the enemy is. And lastly, you have Shadow Arrow. You weave illusion magic into your arrow, causing it to occlude your foe's vision with shadows. The creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 psychic damage and must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be unable to see anything farther than 5 feet away until the start of your next turn. It becomes 4d6 psychic when it becomes 18th level. So, looking at all of these, Banishing probably isn't one of your most sought after ones. Beguiling is alright, psychic damage is nice, but then the become charmed to one of your allies is alright. Bursting Arrow is very good, being able to damage a lot of people in like a decent sized area of 10 feet. We say that's 10 feet on either side, by the way, on all sides. So it is a pretty decent sized radius that you might be able to hit a pot shot on a couple of enemies. Enfeebling Arrows, if you're going up against, an enemy who is a fully weapon-based character, because this also isn't saying dealt by weapon attack, like dealt by strength weapon attacks. So if you hit like a rogue or something who is, out there trying to do dexterity-based damage, it still counts for that technically, because it is just saying weapon attacks is halved. So this isn't like enfeebling ray where it's lowering their strength stat. This is just straight up making the weapons weaker off. And then necrotic damage is a decent damage type. Grasping Arrow is extremely good, because this can potentially be doing 4d6. Especially if, technically your enemy may not know that, because it isn't that their speed is reduced to 0, it's just that they're reduced by 10. So technically your enemy shouldn't just naturally know, oh, I should get this off because I don't want to take the extra damage. If they know that they can move, then they'll probably move and just leave it on, and then they'll immediately take some damage because they try to move. So this is actually a pretty decent bit of damage that you can start getting off on an enemy, especially if you get to 18th level where you can potentially get 8d6 just because your enemy didn't realize that they should probably take the brambles off. And then Shadow Arrow is pretty good, being psychic damage and being able to essentially blind your enemy. Seeking Arrow has its areas of strength where, if you're trying to locate an enemy who's running away or has become invisible or is behind cover, it's pretty good. Piercing Arrow is alright if you want to try to hit enemies that are in a 30-foot line. Because, of course, if you want to hit enemies who are, if they're like stacked up against each other and they're in a line, then just using something like Bursting Arrow would probably be a lot better, but this one is still alright. Next up, it'll be at 7th level, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Yeah, 7th, 10th, 15th, 18th. So 7th level, you'll be getting Magic Arrow. At 7th level, you gain the ability to infuse arrows with magic. Whenever you fire a non-magical arrow from a short bow or longbow, you can make it magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. The magic fades from the arrow immediately after it hits or misses its target. So you basically just have, if you're not using a magic bow, it is, for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunity, it counts as magic. So you basically shoot magic arrows for only if you're shooting them, though. So it's if you shoot them and then like your ally takes the bow or an enemy takes the arrow or something, they're not magical still. Only when you shoot them until they hit or miss the enemy, which is actually kind of cool. You also will get Curving Shot at 7th level. You learn how to direct an errant arrow toward a new target. When you make an attack roll with a magic arrow and miss, you can use your bonus action to re-roll the attack roll against a different target within 60 feet of the original target, which is actually really cool. Because if you've basically just made your shot, and then, oh no, I miss. Which, by the way, you can make a lot of attacks as a fighter. So you can basically say, oh no, I missed that target. Well, I also see that there's an enemy who's, just a little bit of ways. I'll just switch over to hit that guy. And it's especially cool if you're using the bursting arrow and the target that you missed is within 10 feet of the target that you're now trying to hit. You can basically just flick it off, hit them, blow up, and hit both of them. So even though you just missed the primary target, you still hit them because you just flicked and curved it, which is kind of cool. At nothing at 10th level, although it does say that you're supposed to get stuff at 10th level, right? Yeah, nothing at 10th level, which is alright. You are getting quite a bit of stuff throughout the times as this subclass. You also don't get something at 18th level, which maybe not everything gets it, but that's alright. Starting at 15th level, you'll get Ever Ready Shot, which is the capstone for this subclass. Your magical archery is available whenever battle starts. If you roll initiative and have no arcane shots remaining, you regain 1 use of it, which is how a lot of these subclasses and some core classes work, is that, if you don't have any of their little abilities left by the time that you start combat, you'll just get them back. So, as a capstone, it's alright, kind of basic for the most part, but everything else, getting your non-magical things to become magic here, getting to be able to, if you miss a shot, being able to move it to hit a shot, the amount of different little arcane shots that you can get. You get 1 cantrip and 1 extra skill. Your arcane shots, which is you'll only ever have 2, which is alright, but you do get them back at a short rest. So don't be too afraid to be using them, because hopefully you'll be able to get a short rest in between combat and stuff. And you get a good bit of ones that you can choose from, and they're all fairly strong in their own ways. I certainly say that if you want to play an archer fighter, then this is definitely, this is the subclass. Is this overall, as good as it can be? To be honest, if you're solely going to be, hey, I want to be the archer, and then you choose the archer, the fighter to be the archer, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Although, would playing a ranger or a rogue be smarter if you want to be an archer? Yes. But this one still has a pretty good purpose overall. So definitely wouldn't say that it's bad. It's just that other classes do what it's trying to do a bit better, in the fact that other classes are designed to basically be archers in a sense. So maybe look at one of those before you say, I want to be the arcane archer. Next up, you'll have the Battle Master. To be honest, I could make a whole video on the Battle Master and just, man, it's just, honestly, I think I might give the Battle Master its own thing, because there is a lot to go over when it comes to the Battle Master. So I'll come back to that to another video, because honestly, I'm gonna tell you right now, it might have its own video. It is the best fighter subclass, hands down, and I'll go over why another time, but it honestly deserves its own full section to try to explain everything and how much I want to talk about it. So, next up then will be the Gunslinger, if you're playing with critical role stuff. Right off the bat, you'll gain firearm proficiency. You'll become proficient in firearms, allowing you to add your proficiency bonus to attacks made with firearms. You'll also get Gunsmith, which will allow you to essentially create guns and ammo and explosives, as you can see. Basically, this is all the stuff that you get as, using guns. Guns will basically have the reload property, which you can spend 1 attack or 1 action to reload. You must have 1 free hand to reload it. They do, of course, have a certain amount of ammo before you have to reload. Misfire, which is basically saying that if you roll a certain, too low of a number, every gun has a certain misfire score. If you hit that on the die, the die itself. So if your misfire is a 3 or lower, and on the die you roll a 3, even though, yes, your proficiency would add it up to be a 13 or something, your proficiency plus dex would increase it to an 18, you still roll a 3, which means you misfire, and then you have to repair the gun using Tinker's tools, and then if you're able to, then you're good. Creatures who use a firearm without proficiency increase by 1. So, explosive. Upon a hit, everything within 5 feet of the target must make a dexterity saving throw. It basically is just saying that you have explosives or explosive shot potentially, and then ammo, of course, like any ranged weapon have ammo. And these are kind of your basic ones. There are a few more, and if you want to discuss with your DM about creating like another one, because you have all of these, if you really wanted to, you could say, hey, can I create a shotgun? Something that shoots in a cone effect. Then maybe that's something you can ask your DM. You have like a sniper here, this here that is explosive by talk here, but there also isn't anything that's saying that you couldn't create a shotgun to shoot in a cone effect. So, you have some pretty cool stuff as this, and you'll also get Adept Marksman, which gives you trick shots and grit. So, basically, you gain grit points equal to your wisdom modifier, which means that you probably want to have a decent wisdom here. You regain 1 expended grit point each time you roll a 20 on the d20 for an attack with a firearm, or dealing killing blow with a firearm to a creature of significant threat, DM's discretion. You regain all of them at a short or long rest, and you're using grit points for your trick shots. And you've got to call trick shots before the attack roll is made here, and 1 trick shot per attack. The trick shots you'll be getting, of course, more and more throughout the time. Bullying shot. You can use the powerful blast and thundering sound of your firearm to shake the resolve of a creature. You can expend 1 grip point while making a charisma intimidation check to gain advantage on the roll. So, you can potentially gain advantage and stuff. Dazing shot. When you make a firearm attack against a creature, you can expend 1 grit point to attempt to dizzy your opponent. On a hit, the creature suffers normal damage and must make a Constitution saving throw or suffer disadvantage on attacks until the end of their next turn. Deadeye shot. When you make a firearm attack against a creature, you can spend 1 grit point to gain advantage on the attack roll. Disarming shot. You can expend 1 grit point to shoot at the hand. On a hit, the creature suffers normal damage and must succeed on a save and throw, or drop 1 held object of your choice, or have the object be pushed 10 feet away from you. Forceful shot. When you make a firearm attack on a hit, the creature suffers normal damage and must succeed on a strength saving throw, or be pushed 15 feet away from you. Piercing shot. The initial attack gains a +1 to the firearm's misfire score. On a hit, the creature suffers normal damage, and you make an attack roll with disadvantage against every creature in a line directly behind the target within your first range increment. Only the initial attack can misfire. Violent shot. For each grit point expended, the attack gains a +2 to the misfire score. If the attack hits, you can roll 1 additional weapon damage die per grit point spent when determining the damage. So basically, you can spend all of your grit points and just roll that many extra die against an enemy, but do watch out as that increases the misfire chance. And lastly, you have winging shot. On a hit, the creature suffers normal damage and must make a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. Or if the enemy that is flying, a lot of times you're actually shooting at the wing rather than them just being knocked prone. They'll lose a certain amount of distance of flying, and then they won't be able to gain any height for like a turn or something, depending on what your DM chooses. And no, there isn't anything where once you hit max level they become better or anything. It is just that you gain more and more as you level up slowly. And I believe that you'll be able to choose just about all of them. Yep, you'll only have two that you don't choose from. So, however you want to build your gunslinger here. At 7th level, you'll get Quick Draw. When you reach 7th level, you add your proficiency bonus to your initiative. You can also stow a firearm, then draw another firearm as a single object interaction on your turn. So, this is basically just, this part is where it is extremely powerful. you can add your proficiency bonus to initiative. At this point, you probably have an initiative of 3, and then of course at the end you have a proficiency of 6. That means that because this subclass is requiring you to have a dexterity, your dex as your strongest thing, as that is what guns require, you'll probably have either a 5 or a 6 as your dex, so you'll be adding 5 or 6 plus 6. You'll be getting a total of like either 11 or 12 as your initiative. Not to mention if you also have, let's say you chose alert as a feature, which adds plus 5 to initiative, you can potentially be rolling a plus 16 or 17 to initiative, which basically means you go first almost every time. And then you can stow a firearm and switch them. Like you can basically switch firearms in a single action or as a single interaction, which can be a bonus action usually. So you can basically, if you're shooting at somebody and you kill them with your pistol, and now there's somebody who's far away, you can just instantly switch over to your sniper and shoot them from a distance, which is actually pretty helpful. Or if you run out of ammo in the first gun, so you want to switch over to your other gun, which does have ammo, then you can do that. At 10th level, you gain Rapid Repair. Upon reaching 10th level, you learn how to quickly attempt to fix a jammed gun. You can expend a grit point to attempt to repair a misfired but not broken firearm as a bonus action. So no longer do you have to shoot and then basically like, oh no, I have to try to use my action to repair it later on or something like that. You can basically say, hey, as long as I've got grit, I can use it as a bonus action rather than as an action, which is very helpful, to be honest, because you still want to be continuing to shoot people with your weapon. Uh, at 15th level, you gain Lightning Reload. You can reload any firearm as a bonus action, which is extremely helpful because maybe you want to just keep using whatever gun you're currently using, because maybe that gun is a lot better than your other ones, or you just don't feel like your other guns would be, you don't want to use your other guns, you want to keep using that one because it's your favorite one. Maybe because you're using a shotgun that can hit a cone of enemies. And basically, you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at the start of your next turn, rather than using the action or something, you can just use your bonus action and continue firing off. So, actually, very helpful to be able to use as a bonus action. At 18th level, you get Vicious Intent. Your firearm attacks score a crit on a 19 or 20, and you regain a crit point on a roll of a 19 or 20. So, getting to have a crit on a 19 now as well as a 20, actually extremely helpful because, that's 2 chance, instead of a 5% chance, you now have a 10% chance to be hitting a crit on an enemy. So, so very helpful, and then your crit points are regained on a 19 or 20. That's very nice. And also you get Hemorrhaging Critical. Whenever you score a critical hit on an attack with a firearm, the target additionally suffers half of the damage from the attack at the end of its next turn. So that's basically saying that if on your crit you had been able to do, 56 damage, that means on the at the end of its next turn, it'll take an additional 28 damage, and there's no preventing that. The only way to prevent it is if the critical hit doesn't count. They have adamantium armor or like a domain of the grave, grave cleric domain, or the druid subclass we went over last time that at max level says I'm not affected by crits. If one of those say no crit for you, but as long as you do it, there's nothing that says yeah, sorry, I'm not going to take that damage. No, they take that damage as long as they're alive. So a lot of damage can be had by this subclass, especially with some of these. You get to like 2d8, 2d12, 2d8. Some of these can be doing 2d8, and then you can potentially get +1 weapons, or even like all the way up to like a +3 onto your guns, which means that you're rolling more die to be doing a lot more damage. It's really strong, and in all honesty, like if you're gonna be it's not here, but if you're going to be choosing a ranged fighter, I would definitely say that the gunslinger is a lot superior compared to the arcane archer, which is the arcane archer can easily be an S tier. The issue is that the gunslinger, in my opinion, is a lot better. So I would definitely say put it right up here, just a little bit behind the battle master. So definitely pick the gunslinger if you want to have some fun in some unique ways compared to what a fighter normally can do and what other classes can normally do. Next up, you have the Cavalier. Right at third level, you're getting a bonus proficiency of either you can choose a skill, which will be animal handling, history, insight, performance, or persuasion, or you can choose a language, which can be any language. So it is whatever you really need. If I would say that, either one is just as helpful as the other one. If you want to be, have more history or insight or like any of these, then go for it. Or if you want to have more language to be able to speak with, people, then choose that one. Either one is fine. At third level, you also get Born to the Saddle. Your mastery as a rider becomes apparent. You have advantage on saving throws made to avoid falling off your mount. If you fall off your mount and descend to no more than 10 feet, you can land on your feet if not incapacitated. Finally, mounting or dismounting a creature costs you only 5 feet of your movement speed rather than half your speed. So, if you're, a very, mount-oriented thing, really like mount-oriented, this isn't like some subclasses where you can basically constantly have a mount or something. No, you actively have to like get a mount in order for this stuff to be, useful, but you do get some neat little abilities if you do have a mount. Also at third level, you get Unwavering Mark. You can menace your foes, foiling their attacks and punishing them for harming others. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can mark the creature until the end of your next turn. This effect ends early if you are incapacitated or die, or if someone else marks the creature. While it is within 5 feet of you, a creature marked by you has disadvantage on any attack roll that doesn't target you. In addition, if a creature marked by you deals damage to anyone other than you, you can make a special melee weapon attack against the marked creature as a bonus action on your next turn. You have advantage on the attack roll, and if it hits, the attack's weapon deals extra damage to the target equal to half your fighter level. Regardless of the number of creatures you mark, you can make this special attack a number of times equal to your strength modifier, minimum of once, and regain all expended uses at a long rest. So, even if you don't, you know, this basically is just giving you like extra little bits of, things here and there. It is, alright. How often are you like, will this one come into effect? Probably a bit more often than you'd really think, because there's probably going to be times where, you'll be like kind of in the back trying to help an ally who, who's trying to be harried by a foe. So you get there, you hit them, mark the target, and then now if they want to try to hit the wizard, as long as they're within 5 feet of you, they'll be having disadvantage on it if they're not going to attack you, which will make it a little bit harder for them to hit your ally there. And then if they do hit the person, like the wizard or whatever you're trying to protect, then as your bonus action attack, you'll be able to do a bit of extra damage against them. That is at advantage, which means that it potentially will be a crit, because advantage always gives you a higher chance at critting, of course. So it actually is kind of nice to be able to have like this whole extra feature. This one probably won't be happening quite as often compared to this one, because this is just if they deal damage to anyone other than you. It is not if they deal damage to anyone other than you within 5 feet of you, as if your disadvantaged thing from the mark. They still hit because of that. It is saying that, oh yeah, if they still hit somebody, well, you're still gaining the like the ability to do the extra advantage strike, and there isn't a finite amount of times that you can mark an enemy. It's just a finite amount of times that you can do the special attack against an enemy. So you can mark as many people as you want, as often as you want. It's just not every single time will you be getting this. But, getting this little ability is kind of nice. And then at 7th level, you will get Warding Maneuver. You learn to fend off strikes directed at you, your mount, or other creatures nearby. If you or a creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack, you can roll a d8 as a reaction. If you're wielding a melee weapon or a shield, roll the die and add the number rolled to the target's AC against the attack. If the attack still hits, the target has resistance against the attack's damage. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier, minimum once, and you get it back in a long rest. So this is kind of nice. You know, it really is giving you kind of the more protective vibe. You know, your protective ability of up here with stuff, and now you're getting to the ability to uh, essentially protect your allies even better by increasing their AC against the attack. The main thing that is kind of starting to go down is the fact that this is two separate modifiers that you need to be paying attention to. Because yes, these are going to be your two like main ones. Is that you'll be a strength-based fighter, and then you'll have a high constitution as you'll want to have more HP. But of course, the issue is that you're also now having to pay attention to, you know, I have a number of times I can use this ability depending on my strength, and I have I can use this ability a certain amount of times equal to my constitution, which means that you're trying to focus on two different numbers for two different like kind of unrelated things. So it's really starting to give you a lot more things for some somewhat strong things that are you know definitely good to have, but if you had all of them be the same thing, because this is like a strength related thing up here, because you're basically going to use your strength to put your melee weapon or your shield in the way. So why not just keep it as strength, especially because you're going to be focusing on your strength a lot more than your constitution. Because like having a +3 in constitution is good enough. You don't need to be like trying to get a +5 in constitution, because you'll be going for that in your strength. So, but it's all right. Also, once you get 10th level, you'll get hold the line. You become a master of locking down your enemies. Creatures provoke an opportunity attack when they move 5 feet or more within your reach. And if you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the target speed is reduced to 0 until the end of your current turn. Which basically is just saying that as your reaction, like you're now getting Sentinel for if they move within 5 feet of your reach or more within your reach, which is always good to see. That isn't just like, oh, they move within 5 feet of you. It is if they move within your reach, which means that if you have something like is a pole arm, perhaps, that is a 10-foot reach, that means that you can potentially just keep enemies out of range of being able to attack you and your allies by they move within reach. You hit them with your 10-foot weapon. You do hit them, and now they can't move anymore, and now they can't get within their 5 feet to be able to hit you. This one is extremely strong, because even if you are just using a 5-foot weapon, getting to stop, halt your enemy's movement because they moved within your range instead of out of your range is actually extremely helpful. And you can potentially also have Sentinel, because then you can also basically do, oh, I hit them when they're trying to get into my range, which means that they can no longer move and get out of the range. And then you get your reaction back on your turn. You do all your attacks, and then when they try to leave your range, you'll be able to hit them again and prevent them from moving, which basically means that you could potentially just stop an enemy from moving solely because you have Hold the Line and Sentinel, which can be hilarious to just stop an enemy from moving, and you can keep them, within like a certain radius of you. So it's kind of funny. And then at 15th level, you get Ferocious Charger. You can run down your foes whether you're mounted or not. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line before attacking a creature and you hit it with the attack, that target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. You can only use this feature once on each of your turns. This one is alright. I mean, it'll basically be, if you had just, beaten an enemy either on that turn and you still have attacks left, or you had beaten the enemy on the previous turn, and then you can run to another enemy, you'll be able to hit them and gain like a little bit of like a potential extra bonus thing. It's alright though. I mean, like, you'll be getting, by the end, this would be like a 19 to save, which, to be fair, is pretty high, and probably not a lot of, you can especially do this against like a spellcaster who probably won't have the highest strength and especially won't have a strength saving throw. This is actually kind of nice, but it's alright. And then lastly, you'll get Vigilant Defender. You respond to danger with extraordinary vigilance. In combat, you get a special reaction that you can take once on every creature's turn except for your turn. You can use a special reaction only to make an opportunity attack, and you can't use it on the same turn that you take your normal reaction. That is extremely powerful, especially if you have Sentinel and you'll have Hold the Line, and if you have Sentinel, because that basically means that you can make as many opportunity attacks that you want. So you can basically say that uh, creatures that provoke when they move within 5 feet of your reach, you can now basically have any enemy that moves within 5 or 10 feet of you. You can use this reaction to do your to do an opportunity attack, and then you can use your normal reaction to be using the warding maneuver to help protect an ally or to have whatever other reaction you may have. So you can basically just wail on people, and also essentially, you can use your reaction to swing at an enemy. If you miss with that, then they can keep moving, and then if they try to leave your area, well, you can swing at them again because you use your special reaction to do it, and then you can use your actual reaction to do it. So this is actually a really strong thing. I would say that, if you're like, this is like an 89. It can easily be an S tier. It's just the main thing is like some of it, like Ferocious Charger is whatever. You have to get all the way up to 18th level, which not every campaign gets all the way up to 18th level for you to have Vigilant Defender active. So you're kind of looking at, like the 15 range. If you can get to the capstone, it's, it's S tier by, easily, by far one of the best ones you can have. But realistically, are you going to get to 18th level? Maybe not. The Ferocious Charger is alright. Hold the Line is pretty strong. Warning Maneuver is very helpful. Unwavering Mark is decent. It's kind of alright, it's whatever, really. Born to the Saddle is whatever, because how often are you realistically going to have a mount? And then your bonus proficiency is just nice to have. So definitely, because you have to look at it from, minimum level to maximum level, which is also kind of why Arcane Archer is a little bit lower, because you get all of the really strong, like all of your arcane shots become upgraded at 18th level. Well, you might not get to 18th level though. And yes, Gunslingers, some of their higher things are at 18th level, but they also get some really strong things at lower levels as well. So you don't need the max level things, to be honest. So next up is your basic run-of-the-mill one. This is the Champion, which is the very kind of basic normal one that you can get. Starting at 3rd level, you get Improved Critical, which allows you to hit a crit. Weapon attacks can score a crit on 19 or 20. So right off the bat, being able to score a crit at 19 or 20 at 3rd level, yeah, you'll really see the fact that you're going to be critting a lot more often, really fast, especially because you get a lot of attacks as a fighter. So yeah. At 7th level, you get Remarkable Athlete. You can add half your proficiency bonus, rounded up, to any strength, dex, or constitution check that you make that doesn't already use your proficiency bonus. In addition, when you make a running long jump, the distance you cover increases by a number of feet equal to your strength modifier. So this is nice if you're doing, if you're not proficient in something like stealth or sleight of hand or anything else, or acrobatics if you're not trained in it, or athletics if you're not trained in it, and then any other area that might be using your strength checks or constitution checks, like just flat strength check, a flat dex check, or a flat con check. You're now able to add half your proficiency, which at this point would probably be 3, so you'll be getting a +2 to the roll, and at the end you'll be getting a +3 to the roll, which is kind of nice actually, just getting to have that extra little bit of added number to it. So it's actually kind of nice to have that. At 10th level, you get an additional fighting style. So you'll be getting a fighting style way back here, and now you'll be getting a second fighting style. Or if you want to be an archer, you can do archer, which is +2 bonus to attack rolls. Blind fighting allows you to have blind sight within 10 feet of you, which means that you can see, you can always see unless they're behind total cover. So if you're blinded or in darkness, you can still see, and even if they're invisible, as long as they don't successively hide from you, you can see them. Defense gives you a +1 to AC while wearing armor. Dueling is that if you're using one-handed weapon and no other weapon, you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon. Great weapon fighting, when you roll a 1 or a 2 for an attack you make with a melee weapon that you're using with 2 hands, you can reroll the 1s and 2s. Great weapon or interception allows you to, when a creature you can see hits a target other than you within 5 feet of you, with an attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage the target takes by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus to a minimum of 0. You must be wielding a shield or a simple or martial weapon to use this reaction, so it's kind of nice to be able to help protect. But of course, you can also just be protecting with the protection fighting style. That is, if you're wielding a shield and somebody attacks a target that is within 5 feet of you, you can impose disadvantage on them with your reaction. You can get superior technique. You learn one maneuver of your choice among those available to the Battle Master archetype. If a maneuver you use requires you to make a saving throw, it is 8 plus your strength or dex plus proficiency. You gain 1 superiority die, which is a d6, and you get it back when you finish a short or long rest. So I'll go over the superior techniques when I am talking about the Battle Master subclass. Thrown weapon fighting, you can draw a weapon that has the thrown property as part of the attack you make with it. And in addition, when you hit with a ranged attack using the thrown weapon, you gain a +2 bonus to the damage roll. 2-weapon fighting, when you engage in 2-weapon fighting, you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack. This is if you're using 2 separate weapons, then you can dual wielding it. You get that. And unarmed fighting. Your unarmed strikes can deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d6 plus your strength modifier on a hit. If you aren't wielding any weapons or a shield, when you make the attack roll, the d6 becomes a d8. At the start of each of your turns, you can deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage to a creature grappled by you. So, depending on what you're doing, if you're being an archer, you can do archery. And if I'm not mistaken, you can stack. So you can actually now have a +4 to attack rolls with range attacks by choosing the same one. If you really want to, you can go double defense, which will basically make your defense a +2 while wearing armor. So you can have heavy armor, by the end when you're the final level, you can essentially have a heavy armor giving you an AC of 16 or 18, I don't remember which one it is off the top of my head, that is +2 or +3 maybe, which is increasing is to the 20 range. And then you have a shield that is maybe a +2 shield or something, boosting you all the way to 22, 23. And then you have both 2 different defenses, making your AC a 25, 26 range, basically making it to where you're not going to get hit, or if you're not going to have a weapon, a second weapon in your hand or a shield or anything, wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, which means you can have a shield. You can have double dueling, which can basically be you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon, which is actually pretty strong. So depending on which fighting style you choose, or you could also choose to do superior technique, which means that you now have 2 d6 superiority dies, and you also have 2 different superiority techniques, 2 different maneuvers that you can have, which is actually kind of funny, to be honest with you. Or you can, mix and match between everything. You can have defense one time, dueling another time. You can have great weapon fighting one time, and then, you can have protection and interception, and, all these miscellaneous things you can choose from. Then at 15th level, you get superior critical. At 15th level, your weapon attacks score a crit on an 18, 19, or 20, which means that you now have 3 different numbers that you can potentially crit on, which is a 15% chance to crit at 15th level, so you'll be critting a lot more often at that point. And then at 18th level, you gain survival. At 18th level, you attain the pinnacle of resilience in battle. At the start of each of your turns, you regain hit points equal to 5 plus a constitution modifier. You have no more than half of your hit points left, Of course, if you're knocked unconscious down to 0 hit points, you don't gain this benefit. But this is basically just saying that that while you're under half hit points, you'll be healing. You have a regeneration factor, which is hilarious. The fact that you can basically be like, yo, yeah, I'm so resilient in battle that I'm constantly healing. I'm able to be like, oh no, I'm down to uh, let's see, you have 124. Of course, your constitution would be throwing that to a lot higher of a number. You're basically going, ooh, wow, look at all this, health that I've gone down to like the 60, 70 range at this point because your constitution would make you go up a lot more. You'll basically be going, oh no, I'll be gaining, 5 plus your constitution would be like 4 or something like that. So you're getting 9. Actually, potentially it can be 5 because as you can see, you get a lot of ASIs being a fighter. You get a lot of ASIs. So you can potentially have a plus 5 constitution modifier, which means that you're healing 10 points every time you're below half hit points. And this also technically means that you can be outside of combat and just start rapidly healing throughout time. Because this is every 6 seconds, essentially, because that's how long a turn of combat lasts, is 6 seconds. Every 6 seconds, you can heal 10 hit points up to half of your hit points. So if you get knocked down all the way to 1 hit point, you can, outside of combat, let's say you finish combat with 9 hit points, you can rapidly heal all the way up to 70 odd hit points within like a minute essentially. So yeah, that's really strong. Of course, this is the capstone, so will you get it realistically? Maybe not, but all in all, like, this is a very basic class, and it is certainly something that grants a lot of benefit. The fact that you get crits at 18 and 20. If you can get your capstone, it is extremely powerful to heal. You get an additional fighting style, which is nice. Remarkable athlete is decent. Getting to add half your proficiency bonus to physical oriented checks. It's kind of nice. All in all, it doesn't grant you anything that is super over the top that makes it like way better than any other subclass. But at the same time, it is improving upon everything that is the fighter. With how many attacks you get, being able to crit more often because your crit is 19 or 20 and then 18, 19 or 20 is definitely very beneficial. The fact that you'll be, the one who does a lot of the physical oriented things, then you'll be, getting to add this is, definitely very beneficial, and it just improves upon what you can do. Getting a second fighting style, which is allowing you to improve upon what the fighter itself can do. Very helpful. 15th level gives you more crit chances, and then Survivor, letting you be in combat longer because you can heal yourself when you're below max HP, is pretty helpful. Lastly, real quick, we'll go over the Eldritch Knight, which Echo Knight is here, but Echo Knight is not actually something that is here. You also have Purple Dragon Knight and no Psy Knight, unfortunately. Or the Rune Knight, which I think is kind of what the Echo Knight and the Purple Dragon Knight turned into. They turned into the Psy Warrior and the Rune Knight at some point. Don't know for sure though, because I don't know exactly what those two used to be, like what the Echo and the Purple Dragon Knights used to, like what they actually were intended to be. So I don't know if they just had a name change or not. Starting at 3rd level, you become a spellcaster, a half-caster, I should say. You'll be getting, as you can see, this is your chart. You'll be getting, by the end of it, if you do choose to go completely max. Of course, you don't need to go all the way max. You can actually go max with, you can go with cantrips. You can go to 19th level because you just gain 1 extra thing here. Of course, there's really no, like, level 1 things that you should be going for as a separate subclass, so might as well just go max out if you're going to want to try to go with a spellcasting round on this. But as you can see, you'll be getting cantrips to a total of 3 by the end. You'll be getting a total of 13 spells known by the end, and you'll be getting 4th level spell at max, 1 by 14th level spell slots, I should say, and then 4 first level spells, which you get at maxed out at 7, and then you get maxed out on second at 11th, and maxed out third levels at 16th. So it's kind of nice, and it's using your intelligence. So it's as if you were kind of being a wizard in a sense. At third level, you also get Weapon Bond. You learn a ritual that creates a magical bond between yourself and one weapon. You perform the ritual over the course of 1 hour, which can be done during a short rest. The weapon must be within your reach throughout the ritual, at the conclusion of which you touch the weapon and forge the bond. Once you have bonded a weapon to yourself, you can't be disarmed of that weapon unless you are incapacitated. If it is on the same plane of existence, you can summon that weapon as a bonus action, causing it to teleport instantly to your hand. So you get a straight up mule near it. You essentially kind of be Thor in a sense, to where you can just boop and it's in your hand. Which also means that if you really want, your weapon can be a thrown weapon, and you can essentially throw the weapon, summon it back, throw the weapon again. At the start of your next turn, you teleport it back to you, and then you can start slashing the enemy with it, which is kind of funny. You can have up to 2 bonded weapons, but can only summon 1 at a time with your bonus action. If you attempt to bond to a third weapon, you have to break a bond with one of the previous weapons. So if you want to be a dual weapon fighter, then you can actually be bonded to both of them, and this also basically means that you can throw the weapon. Actually, yeah, that's something that can be kind of strong, is that you can have 2 weapons. One of them can be a decent, a good throwing weapon or something like that. I don't know, the lightning javelin, I believe is what it's called, and it's basically you throw the javelin, and you can use a command to turn the javelin to a lightning bolt, and you can just throw that at the enemy, and then slash a couple times, because you now have, if you chose to have your style to be dueling, so you only can have one while you're making the melee weapon, so you can start off by throwing the weapon with one of your attacks, and then you can start slashing with your melee weapon, which now gains the bonus of the dueling effect, and then you can use the bonus action to call back the weapon, and then on your next turn, you can throw it again, and just kind of keep repeating this process to be doing, a lot of damage and miscellaneous things from range, from up close and from a distance. So, starting at 7th level, you gain War Magic. When you use your action to cast a cantrip, you can make one attack as a bonus action. So, if you don't, if you want to be able to use a little bit of your magic as well as your weapon, then you can now do that, as long as it's a cantrip. So you can basically, just cast, something like Firebolt or something like that, or any other little miscellaneous thing to try to help, gain a little bit of extra stuff. So you can just, real quick Firebolt, run up, hit him with your weapon, kind of miscellaneous little things here and there that can be weaved in if you're, you chose a good cantrip, and if you are, smart enough to be able to do everything properly. Starting at 10th level, you'll get Eldritch Strike. You learn how to make your weapon strikes undercut a creature's resistance to your spells. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, that creature has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes against a spell you cast before the end of your next turn. So you can basically do, you can hit the enemy with a spell, hit them with your actual weapon attack, and then on the next turn, you can do a spell that actually has a saving throw. Or, if you really want, because you do have 3rd level spells after a bit, potentially, because at this point you do, or at 11th level, you'll have 3 attacks, if I'm not mistaken. You can attack, 3 times. What you could do is run up and hit 3 separate enemies, get out of, a little bit out of range or something, and then, as a 3rd level spell, cast Fireball on all 3 of them, having disadvantage on the saving throw, which means that Fireball is going to do a decent bit of damage, as they're all going to be at disadvantage, more likely to fail it. So, some pretty funny things that you can do potentially with that. At 15th level, you get Arcane Charge. You gain the ability to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space. You can see when you use your Action Surge, you can teleport before or after the additional action. I'll explain Action Surge when I'm talking about the fighter as a whole. So, I'll explain it now. It basically just allows you to take another action. So you can take 2 separate actions, which means that potentially with however many attack, like if you're a 20th level fighter with the subclass, you can hit 4 enemies on one turn and then use your um, extra attack, you can action surge and cast a spell, or you can potentially cast 2 spells in one turn because you can use 2 actions, which means that you can throw out a spell and then throw out a second spell because you action surged. So you can do quite a bit of stuff. You can also potentially do 4 attacks, action surge, 4 attacks, which will now potentially, if it was, somehow able for it to have happened, potentially what could have happened in a crazy hypothetical with it. You're surrounded by 8 enemies. You hit all 8 of them because you hit 4 of them, action surge, hit 4 of them again, teleport to 30 feet away. Next turn, you throw a fireball at all of them. All of them are rolling at disadvantage on the saving throw. Yes, is this a psychotic, like improbable, probably never going to happen thing? Yes. But in the off chance that it does happen, because it would be hilarious if it did, you just force disadvantage on 8 people that you're throwing a fireball at. So, and then at 18th level, you get improved, which basically is saying that when you cast a spell, you can make a weapon attack as a bonus action. So it's no longer just a cantrip, you can now cast a spell and then use a weapon attack as a bonus action. So definitely, as a capstone, it's kind of nice. It isn't like if you get to the capstone, it's a nice little add to what you're already doing. If you don't get to the capstone, it's not like you're missing out on some super strong thing. So it's like a good spot that a capstone can be to where it's like, yeah, it's really, it's beneficial, but it's not like, God, I have to get to 18th level or else, I'm not getting what I should be getting. No, if you don't get to 18th level, it's alright. If you do get to 18th level, it's good. Definitely your 15th level is certainly an area where, because you'll be using action surge a lot more, pretty fairly often, as you can, by the end, you'll get 2 of them, 2 action surges that you can use. So getting to just, hit the enemy, maybe teleport to another enemy and hit them a couple of times or something, it's kind of nice. And then also the ability to, if you hit the enemies, use action surge, teleport away, and then throw out your fireball to hit the enemies who are now at disadvantage. It'll just try giving them disadvantage when you hit them with weapon attacks. Using a cantrip and then the weapon is kind of nice if you want to be weaving in cantrips with weapon attacks. And then your weapon bond is pretty good, actually. I would certainly say that it is just below the champion because, you only get to 4th level spells. You don't get 5th level spells like other half casters do. Like when we get to it, not the monks, but the paladins and the rangers and the warlocks. When we get to them, and Arcane Trickster for the rogue, their half casting is pretty strong in what they can do with their half casting stuff. It is certainly a lot easier to consider, hey, do I want to be using a spell now or do I want to be using my attacks? The main thing about the fighter doing that is the fact that, when you're like a paladin, I believe the paladin and ranger only get 1 extra attack, so they can make, when they take the attack action, they make 2 attacks. And then the rogue, I don't think gets extra attack off the top of my head. I don't think he does, which is interesting. The thing with the fighter is that potentially you can get up to 4 if you're a 20th level fighter. You can get 4 attacks with 1 action. So it's like, yeah, a lot of times you want to be attacking, using the action to attack, because you can attack a lot compared to only being able to cast 1 spell unless you action surge to cast a second spell. So it's like, yeah, usually, you want to do something else, but, there's definitely some good benefits. Let me actually, because no, I think I'll put it down there, because the Arcane Archer, for the fact that it is, actually a very powerful thing. This is so far what it is for me. The Battle Master, who will essentially get his own video, because honestly, there's so much to the Battle Master because of how many combat, like the combat maneuvers that you can do with the superiority dice. It's actually a lot of stuff to be looking over in that aspect. And then Gunslinger is also up there in S tier, and then these 4 will be here in the A tier. Am I rather biased for the fighter because it's my favorite class? Yeah. Should some of these be in B tier? You can certainly make an argument for that. Am I going to put them in B tier? Not at the moment, but maybe later on. But for now, I'm going to tell you that I believe all of them to be A tier or better. But that is, of course, coming from somebody who's biased, which is kind of what tier making is your opinion on the thing. I personally see, these to be the ranking. You might see them as something else, and that's perfectly fine. Do as you please. Make your own tier list for all of these subclasses. I honestly recommend it. It's a lot of fun to be going over all of this and to be looking into everything. So, but that'll do it for this video. If you guys did enjoy, then consider hitting the like button and commenting down below what you guys did enjoy so that I can continue to do it, to continue making the videos as well as I have been. If you guys didn't like the video, then go ahead and dislike it and comment down below what you didn't like so that I may improve upon the videos to make it better for y'all. If you guys want to know when I upload, then the best way to know is by subscribing. But that does it for this video. Until next time, bye guys.